Will Cynthia be foolish enough to push her to the limit? Or will Adiz finally break her silence to reveal the secret that could take down the entire school board? Let's find out in JSS 3. Emerald Academy was the pride of the city, a place where the children of the elite spent their parents' millions. But on a dusty Monday morning, the gates opened for a girl who looked like she belonged in a different world. Her name was Adiz. She was enrolled in JSS 3, the most chaotic class in the school. While other girls wore expensive hair extensions and carried designer school bags, Adiz wore a simple, oversized uniform and kept her natural hair in neat African threads. As she walked into the classroom, the noise died down. She didn't greet anyone. She didn't look for a friend. She simply walked to the back, took a seat, and stared at the chalkboard. The students began to whisper. Who is she? Is she from a village? Why isn't she talking? Adiz remained like a statue. Little did they know, her silence was not because she was shy, but because she was listening to things they all chose to ignore. The first period was integrated science with Mr. Okon, a teacher known for his short temper and love for difficult questions. He wrote a complex diagram on the board about genetics, a topic meant for senior students. If anyone in this JSS 3 class can explain this, I will buy them lunch for a month, he joked. The class went silent. Then, slowly, Adiz stood up. The students snickered. Cynthia, the richest girl in class, laughed out loud. Look at the village girl trying to be a genius, she mocked. Adiz didn't even blink. She walked to the board, took the chalk, and began to draw. She didn't just solve it. She improved the diagram. The room became so quiet you could hear the ceiling fan humming. Mr. Okon's jaw dropped. Correct? Perfectly correct, he stammered. What is your name, child? Adiz looked at him, gave a respectful bow, and walked back to her seat. She didn't say a single word. Cynthia was the queen bee of JSS 3. Her father was the chairman of the school board, and she felt she owned Emerald Academy. Seeing Adiz get praised by Mr. Okon felt like a slap in the face. During the long break, Cynthia and her crew cornered Adiz in the hallway. Listen here, new girl, Cynthia hissed, pointing a manicured finger at Adiz's chest. In this school, we have a hierarchy. I am at the top, and you are at the bottom. Your silence doesn't make you deep, it makes you weird. If you don't start talking and showing me respect, I will make sure you are expelled by Friday. Adiz didn't back away. She looked directly into Cynthia's eyes. There was no fear in Adiz's gaze, only a strange kind of pity. She simply stepped around Cynthia and continued walking, leaving the queen bee screaming in frustration. Kemi was the only student who tried to be nice to Adiz. They shared the same dormitory room in the JSS 3 wing. One night, Kemi woke up and saw Adiz sitting by the window, writing intensely in a small red diary. Kemi noticed that Adiz wasn't just writing notes. She was drawing maps of school and listing names of teachers and students. Under Cynthia's name, Adiz had written, masking insecurity with cruelty. Under the principal's name, she wrote, blind to the leak. Kemi realized that Adiz was a watcher. She was collecting data on everyone at Emerald Academy. Adiz, why don't you talk to us? Kemi whispered from her bed. Adiz turned, looked at Kemi, and placed a finger over her lips. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. The silence was her shield, and she wasn't ready to drop it yet. Cynthia decided that if she couldn't break Adiz's silence, she would destroy her reputation. During the weekly continuous assessment test, Cynthia snuck a cheat sheet into Adiz's desk while the class was at assembly. When the test began, Cynthia raised her hand. Mrs. Bello, I think I saw Adiz hiding something in her desk. The teacher, a strict woman who hated dishonesty, marched to the back. She searched Adiz's desk and pulled out the paper. The class gasped. Adiz! Explain this immediately. Mrs. Bello shouted. Adiz stood up slowly. She didn't look at the paper. Instead, she pointed toward the back of the classroom, specifically at a small gap in the air conditioning vent. Mrs. Bello was confused until she looked closer. Tucked inside the vent was Cynthia's phone, which had been recording the whole time. Adiz had seen Cynthia plant the paper earlier and had moved Cynthia's own phone to record her doing it. The principal, a stern man named Mr. Mensa, was in a difficult position. Cynthia's father was his boss, but the evidence on the phone was clear. Cynthia was crying, claiming it was a joke, while Adiz sat in the office chair, as calm as a morning breeze. "Adiz, you are clearly a very bright girl," Mr. Mensah said, rubbing his forehead. "But your refusal to speak is making this investigation difficult. I need you to tell me exactly what happened." Adiz took a piece of paper from the principal's desk and wrote 3 words. "Check the ledger." Mr. Mensah froze. The ledger was the school's secret financial book that only he and the chairman knew about. How did a JSS-3 girl know about it? He looked at Adiz with a mixture of fear and respect. She wasn't just a student. She was a threat to the entire corrupt system. As the news of the principal's office mystery spread, the rumors about Adiz turned supernatural. Some students claimed she was a mommy water who had come to take the school's souls. Others said she was an undercover agent for the government sent to catch corrupt principals. Cynthia, desperate to regain her power, started telling everyone that Adiz was an orphan from a cursed village who had used juju to get into the school. She can't speak because the spirits took her voice as payment for her brains. Cynthia shouted in the cafeteria, but while Cynthia was talking, Adiz was working. She was seen in the library every afternoon, going through old school archives and newspapers from 20 years ago. She was looking for a specific name, a name that would change everything. The atmosphere at Emerald Academy became tense when it was announced that the Emerald Excellence Scholarship was being awarded to Cynthia's best friend. Even though her grades were failing, this scholarship was meant for the most brilliant JSS-3 student to cover their entire senior secondary education. The other students were angry but afraid to speak. That evening, the school's digital notice board was hacked. Instead of the scholarship announcement, a video began to play. It was a recording of the bursar and Cynthia's father discussing how they were using the scholarship funds to buy new cars for themselves. The whole school watched in shock. At the bottom of the screen, a message appeared in bold red letters. "Silence ends when justice begins." Everyone knew it was Adiz. She was the only one smart enough to bypass the school's high-level security. The school board called an emergency meeting to address the hack and the scandal. Cynthia's father, Chairman Obinna, was furious. "I want that girl expelled and arrested," he roared, slamming his fist on the table. "She is a spy. She is a liar." Just as he was about to sign the expulsion papers, the door to the boardroom opened. Adiz walked in, but she wasn't alone. She was accompanied by 2 high-ranking lawyers and a woman in a black suit who looked exactly like the portrait of the school's late founder. The chairman turned pale. Who is this?" he stammered. The woman stepped forward. "I am the legal executor of the Emerald Estate. And this girl," she said, placing a hand on Adiz's shoulder, "is the reason you are all going to jail." The boardroom was silent as the lawyer began to read from a legal document. 15 years ago, the founder of the school, Mrs. Agnes Emerald, passed away. She left the school in a trust for her only granddaughter, who was just a baby at the time. The chairman laughed nervously. "That baby died in the same accident as her mother." The lawyer shook her head. "No, she was hidden for her own safety, raised in a quiet village to protect her from people like you who wanted to steal her inheritance." He turned to Adiz. The trust stipulated that she must return to school as a JSS-3 student to observe the teachers and the board in secret. She had to remain silent to see the true character of the people running her legacy. The chairman collapsed into his chair. Adiz wasn't a village girl. She was the owner of the school. The chairman and the bursar were led away in handcuffs as the students watched from the windows. The whole school gathered in the assembly hall, waiting for an explanation. The principal stood at the microphone, looking humbled. "Students of Emerald Academy, I have an announcement." He stepped aside, and Adiz walked to the podium. For the first time in months, she adjusted the microphone. The students held their breath. Then she spoke. Her voice was like silk, strong, clear, and full of wisdom. "My name is Adiz Agnes Emerald," she began. A wave of gasps went through the room. "I spent this term in silence because I wanted to hear your voices. I heard the cries of the bullied. I heard the whispers of the corrupt. And I heard the silence of those who were too afraid to speak. From today," Adiz continued, Her eyes scanning the room, Emerald Academy returns to its original purpose. It will no longer be a playground for the rich to bully the poor. She looked directly at Cynthia, who was shaking in the front row. Cynthia, your father's crimes are not yours, but your behavior in JSS 3 has been unacceptable. You will not be expelled, but you will spend the rest of the term performing community service in the library you so rarely visited. Adiz announced that the scholarship funds had been recovered and would be distributed based on merit, not connections. She also announced a new Student Voice Committee, headed by Kemi, to ensure that no student would ever have to be silent out of fear again. The days following the reveal were a whirlwind. Cynthia had lost her status, her crew, and her pride. She tried to apologize to Adiz, but Adiz simply smiled. You don't need to apologize to me, Cynthia. You need to apologize to the person you were before you thought money made you a queen. Adiz moved out of the dormitory and into the founder's private residence on campus, but she remained in the JSS 3 class. She didn't want to be treated like a celebrity. She wanted to finish her education like everyone else. She became the most popular student, not because of her money, but because she was a silent prodigy who had saved the school. She proved that the smartest person in the room is often the one who says the least. By the time JSS 3 was over, Emerald Academy had become the top school in the country once again. Corruption was gone, and the students were thriving. On graduation day, Adiz stood as a valedictorian. She looked at Kemi, Mr. Okon, and even a humbled Cynthia. Her final speech was short but powerful. We often think that to be powerful, we must shout. But true power lies in observation. It lies in the truth we find when we stop talking and start listening. As she walked off the stage, the applause was deafening. The legend of the girl who never spoke became a story passed down to every new JSS 1 student. They learned that at Emerald Academy, you should never underestimate the quiet girl in the back of class, because she might just be the one holding the keys to the kingdom.